This is a tutorial on building a cartoon eye using Blender 2.5. I'll go over to graphical if you want to download the newest builds. First thing we're going to do here is delete the default cube, hitting the X key. Now what we're going to do is add another object using the Shift key, and it's going to be a UV sphere. Now shut off perspective view using the 5 key on your number pad. You're going to want to use ortho view for this. It's a little helpful. Hit the R key to rotate the eyeball to the front view. Hit tab so we can go into edit mode. These are the different views you can use. Use tab, then control tab to change it to face select. Hit A to select everything. Z is going to make it so it's transparent. Remember where the center of the object is, and this is the center of our object. I'm going to select these front faces and use the Shift D in order to duplicate them, and then we're going to use the P key to separate them as a different object. Now because it's another object, the center stays where the other object's center is. We're going to move that just by simply dragging the pupil center out, hitting tab to go to edit mode, and then drag the pupil back onto where the center is close to the eyeball. That's going to be very helpful a little bit later on. Next step is going to be for us to take a look at this hierarchy that Blender has incorporated in the new builds. The hierarchy consists basically of your camera or your render view, then your scene, then your world, and your object. Let's go to object for a minute. Let's change the name of our object. This particular one is going to be pupil. Spell that correctly. Then this one will be the eyeball. There we go. Now what we're going to do is going to look at some more of these things. Here we have constraints and modifiers and mesh information. It's a great hierarchy because it goes from basically the biggest view of your whole scene down to the smallest things like particles and stuff. Here what we're going to do is this is our material button, and we can add a material. Remember that your material is like a suitcase and your texture is like the things that you put in your suitcase. And again, there's your physics and stuff like that. But what we're going to do, I love this hierarchy. It's great in Blender. It's a new way that they have it set up, and I love the way it's done. Here what we're going to do is we're going to parent the pupil to the eyeball. So you select the pupil, then the eyeball, and do Control P. Then you just do it to the object, and now the pupil is parented to the eyeball. So if we rotate the eyeball, the pupil goes with it. Works really nice. Now, next step. We're going to go over here to our text, our material, and we're going to add a new material. Let's make it the pupil. We'll name it pupil black. Then down here, diffused. Let's change our diffuse. The specular is the highlight part, but this diffuse part is the color of the eye. We'll just leave the specular like it is. And here we're going to add another one for our eyeball. We'll just name that white for now. It's not going to be pure white. We'll change it just a little bit. Something like this. You can use all kinds of things. You got hex colors, RGB. You can just tweak that if you want. That's cool. And that'll do for this. Now we have a slight white there for our eyeball. Now the next thing is going to be, see how it looks like it's all cubes? We're going to just go in and make that smooth. Smooth shading basically now is over in your toolbar. If it's not there, hit the T key and it'll show up. Select this, go to edit mode and hit smooth. Now it's smooth shading is on. That makes it a little bit better. Now what we're going to do is add an empty. We want to put our cursor back in the center of the eyeball and hit Shift A to add an empty. Now we'll move the empty out in front of the eyeball. This is what's going to control the scale of the pupil and where it's looking. But I don't like the way that that's set up, so let's change its view, its shape into, let's do a circle. If you select this arrow here, where it says arrows, that's how it's displaying right now. We'll change it to circle. Then what we'll do is from the front view again, excuse me, we'd like it to be about the same size as the eye, so we're just going to make that a little bit smaller. Size it here, but don't scale it. Don't scale it. Just use this to change its size. Now select we're going to go in and we're going to make this so that we're going to track the eyeball to the empty. So select the eyeball, just like the parent-child relationship, and use old track. If the eyeball flips, just rotate it. Again, R, rotate 180. Now, when we move the empty around, the eyeball will follow it. Excuse me. And that's a great setup right there, but there's still one more step. We don't like that this pupil is sitting so far away from the eye. So we're going to use to fix that and allow it to scale along the mesh of the eyeball is going to be your constraint. Now remember that modifiers change the mesh, so we're going to actually use a mesh modifier for this. Constraints are going to control the mesh. So let's go in and we'll put a modifier on here to modify our mesh, and we're going to use shrink wrap, which is right here. And then all we need to do here is set this up and tell Blender what is the pupil, what is the shrink wrap for the pupil going to shrink wrap to, and that's going to be the eyeball. Now we have some cool settings here we need to set. All right, one is going to be the nearest surface and keep above the surface. We're also going to use the offset just to keep it out a little bit. Now you can see it's still off a little bit, but it's much better. And the thing that it's going to do is when we scale this empty, because we're going to do that in a minute, it's going to scale along the mesh of the eyeball. So that's pretty cool. Now what we're going to do is add a copy scale constraint to the empty. So now as we scale this, the pupil will scale and it goes right along the mesh like that. Now there's a couple of freaky things happening here. Like if I get out to right about here, that's not pretty at all. I'll explain why that's happening in a second. So why is this happening? I'll show you. What we're going to do is come in here, change the offset just a little bit more so it's a little bit further away from the eye. And that's going to allow it to stay just a little bit further on top. We can even type in our own amount, which here I'm going to use 0.01. That keeps it off just enough, so that's not too bad. We can also adjust where the mesh is in relation to the eyeball so that we make sure it doesn't slip behind it. Now we can just scale this and test it. And if my pupil goes any bigger than really, when it starts to deform like that, then I'm have problems with my character. I don't think I'm going to actually ever scale it much larger than that, but if I do, I can make some modifications there. Now that we have the scale working correctly and the shrink wrap working correctly, and we have it tracking to the empty, we're pretty close here. What we want to do now is add a lattice. Again, we're going to put our cursor in the center and add a lattice. Then scale the lattice up to encompass the entire eyeball. Now let's go in and make some modifications to the lattice. Now the lattice is like a separate object. It doesn't do anything yet until we've assigned it. But what we want to do is make some changes to it. And the first thing we want to do is add a couple of cuts, if you will, like loop cuts right in here. That's going to allow us to be able to modify this thing and make it look pretty clean. You can add more or add them in different ways. We'll talk about that a little bit later. We can also change its name, the name of the lattice, to maybe controller. But for now, we're just going to leave it to lattice. All right. Now that it's there, we have to apply the lattice to the eyeball. We select the eyeball and turn on a modifier, a lattice modifier, and select lattice. That's going to be the thing that is going to control the eye. Now when we move a point in the lattice in edit mode, we can then change the shape of the eyeball. Here what we're going to do is just scale this along the y-axis. I just hit S and Y to scale it. Then here we're going to scale it along the X, just to change the shape of the eye some. Now we select the empty, and if we rotate it around, you see the shrink wrap allows it to stay stuck to the mesh eyeball and lets that pupil glide along it. Now my pupil doesn't have to be, you see this little wobble in it? I can adjust that also. Again, a couple more tweaks, just selecting this and moving the mesh a little bit, the center of the mesh, and you can see that I get a little better results. Remember that the higher the resolution of your eyeball itself, the better the wrap is going to be. Because what happens is the edge of my pupil is trying to find each one of those verts as it's going out. You may even want to change some of the where each thing is in the hierarchy of your modifiers. Like the lattice can be above your other modifiers. Also here I'm just making some tweaks. If you want to, you can make some tweaks to that, but I'm pretty happy with what we've got here. So on the top view, we're just going to shift D, unless you want one eye. We can just shift D and then move this over. If you want more eyes, you can do that too. Make as many as you want. Here what we're going to do is I'm just showing you the way that it controls the eyes. But what we're going to do is a shift S and put the cursor to the center of the selection. I'm going to do shift S. Now we're going to put the cursor in the center of these two and then do shift S again, object. Right, so we're going to do object to cursor. That's going to put both of the empties right on top of each other. That way there, when we control one empty, the eyes will focus on it. I'm just going to take another look at this, the way that each one of them, I've got the parent-child relationships showing basically. Now from the top, I'm just going to select both of them, and I can parent them if I would like to. And now if I drag them, you'll see that my eyes track to it. It will allow it to scale it, and if I want to split my window, just to take a look at this thing a little better, I'll just split the window and then hit the T key to get rid of the tool shelf. Remember, you got to be on the window that you're getting rid of. If you get rid of the other side, just go back and hit the T key, it'll come back, and then hit the T key in the correct window. Now what we do, if we move this empty right and close, you see that the eyes will cross, they'll track it, and you can scale that pupil. To animate the eyes, put the empty in the location that you'd like it to be in the first frame. Then hit the I key to enter its location, move it, increase your frame to a different frame, and again hit the I key and continue that until you're happy with your animation. Then hit Alt A and you can preview it. If you'd like to see more about what Blenducation offers, or more about animation or modeling or texturing, drop by Blenducation and sign up today. Until then, happy blending.